Hey guys, it's 7 with Shawn, and I'm going to go over Pastor Steve's message from the weekend. It was called The Good Life, and great message, excellent take on Matthew 5:17 through 26. And forgive me if I look down because I have his outline in front of me. And he had three main points that he talked about in the message. And if you remember the passage is where Jesus talks about anger and hatred towards your brother, and the word raka. And the first part of his message, the first point he made is in the good life is more than legalism. And see, Jesus said in verse 20, he said, "For I tell you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." And see, I actually had someone that was really worried about their salvation when they heard that part. They didn't hear his point that it's more than legalism. And see, the gospel tells us that we can't be good enough. And if you picture the Sermon on the Mount, if you remember the Old Testament law that Moses got, right? Moses went up on the hill. He brought the law back down to the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, Jesus, when he teaches the Sermon on the Mount, he goes up on a mountain. He brings 12 disciples with him to teach them, right? There's a lot of symbolism going on there. And then he expounds on the law that Moses had taught on up on Mount Sinai. Right? You've heard it said, do not murder, but I tell you, right? You heard it said, do not commit adultery, but I tell you. You heard it said, but I tell you. And what he was doing was the 10 Commandments, the law was right here. And Jesus was showing them that ultimately it's up here. And no one can attain that. That no matter how good you are, the righteousness of the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, as righteous as they were, as hard as they tried, no one could get it because they knew even they were committed murder in their heart. They committed hate. They had hatred for people in their heart. And see, what Jesus is trying to show you, and what the law was trying to show you, is that the law is, imagine if you never saw yourself in the mirror. You never saw a picture of yourself. And all of a sudden you were able to hold a mirror up. The law was meant to show you how dirty you were, just how sinful you really were. And this is what Jesus was doing. And that no one could attain that perfection except him. And he's the one that did for you. And that's the good news of the gospel. That's why the good life is more than legalism, just doing the right things. So the next one he talked about is the good life isn't fueled by anger and contempt. And the truth of the matter is, we all carry that. He quoted Dallas Willard in the sermon where he said, "In anger, I want to hurt you, but contempt, I don't care whether you're hurt or not." And see, it's not a sin to be angry. As a matter of fact, the Bible is very clear in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. It says it the same thing. It says, "In your anger, do not sin." Think about that. It doesn't say don't be angry, because it knows that anger is part of the human emotion. Jesus was angry when Jesus went into the temple and he saw people trading. He turned over tables, he yelled, it said he made a whip, he drove people out. He was angry. So it's in your anger, do not sin. So there is a righteous anger, but it's how you respond in your anger. Okay? So it can't be fueled by anger and contempt. I told my men's group this morning, on my way to the youth golf tournament, I had a guy cut me off. And I followed him all the way to his work. I was so angry because he almost ran me off the road, and I had contempt for him. And he was a doctor, and he pulled into Clovis community, and I drove off to Belmont Country Club. And the whole way driving there, driving to the country club, I was angry following him. And then after he pulled in the hospital, I drove off, and I had contempt for him until I got to the golf tournament, and then I forgot about it. But that was sin. And here's the interesting part. Here's a guy almost ran me off the road, but he was going to save lives. And in my anger, I was angry. I sinned because I had contempt for him. The rest of the way to the golf tournament, I thought all kinds of bad things about him, what I would say to him, what I would do. And in my heart, I was saying rock. So the good life isn't fueled by anger and contempt. And that it didn't help me in my day, that whole contempt for him, to be angry with him. It didn't help me be a better person. It didn't help me play golf better. It didn't help me be a better father. None of that. It does. When those things are fueling your life, it never is helpful. if that makes sense. And then finally, the good life is marked by healthy relationships. In healthy relationships, you're going to have healthy relationships. And in healthy relationships, you're going to have conflict. But how you deal with conflict is a whole nother issue. And when you're in conflict in your relationships, because you will have conflict, right? I want you to think of what's the end game of your conflict. How do you want it to end? Because if you want it to end that you win, it's going to end badly. And that's not part of the good life. And it's probably going to end in discord or pain or, just not well. But if the end game is reconciliation, that both of you are reconciled to God, and you're able to keep your side of the street clean for what you've done wrong in the process, and not worry about their side of the street and how dirty it is, you can find the good life, and you can be marked by a healthy relationship. You're having healthy boundaries, healthy approach to it, and it's a good thing. So I hope you guys enjoy the study. Pastor Steve wrote the questions, and it's a lot of discussion in there. So go be the church. See ya.